Welcome in, everybody. Warchant Game Day. Great to be with you. I'm here in Charlotte. Tom holding it down back there in Tally. And we have something in common, Tom, right off the bat as we start the show. It's not...
It's not what? We all wait with bated breath for your internet to come back, as Jeff's internet within 20 seconds of the start of this particular show.
Am I back?
You're back. So you were going to say something, and you said we have something in common. Please let the people know, what do we have in common?
What we have in common is that it's not raining in Tallahassee. It's not raining here. It's nice out. It's pleasant. It's like 60 degrees here in Charlotte.
It's gross here. It's gross. Humid. It has been raining most of the day. For the people in Tallahassee watching these championship games on broadcast television, you get the Doppler for the entirety of the day. That's where we stand right now. So it's not raining up there. That's interesting.
Not raining. It was inclement earlier today, but it's fine now. And, that won't really, I don't think, be a factor. We'll see as the game goes along. But really, we got to get straight to the pressing issue here. We did the JCS yesterday, and we speculated as to what was going to happen at quarterback. And, it was the talk last night here amongst Nole fans everywhere. I had a great time with the Charlotte Seminole Club here. They were fantastic hosts. Everybody was super kind, and got to meet so many listeners and subscribers and folks that have just been really supportive. So I want to say thank you to everybody out there. And I'll tell you, we went several places last night, Tom, and the place was packed with Noles. Everybody's still very eager, but of course the question of the day was, at the time, is Tate Rodemaker good to go? And all we could tell them at that time was, we don't know, and we're not certain. And I don't know. As the night went on, I felt like it was just not going to be Tate, and then today you kind of got the sense that that momentum and that storyline picked up. And then there started being, outlets, some of them reputable, some of them not, kind of speculating that he was out. And then, of course, he ended up with a situation where his dad, Tate Rodemaker's dad, did an interview, said it would be 50-50 as to whether or not he would go. It's at the time that we're doing this, which is live right now at 5 o'clock Eastern time, it appears to me that it's going to be Brock Glenn. And he, of the 35 yards passing Brock Glenn family so far on the year, gets a start in a championship game. We love college football. It's not scripted. Something crazy happens every week, and sometimes that's to your team. And in this case, for Florida State, and what has been a dream season, they watched a nightmare scenario play out, beginning with the North Alabama game. And then obviously late in the Florida game, you see Tate take the shot, and you kind of wondered. He came back in that game. For those that are asking, Tom, I know we've talked about this, but I want people to understand, concussion symptoms can present later. You can go into the tent on the sideline of a game. You can pass their tests out on the field. You can answer the questions correctly. They can do the gauge with the light, all the things that they do. And you may not be presenting any symptoms. And you go, in this case, you go back in the game and you hand the ball off. But then, you wake up the next day, or maybe it's even a Monday, and you don't feel so well. You're nauseated. Bright lights are bothering you. You've got a headache, something along those lines. And, of course, the player who's taking a shot is going to tell. And this is a good thing about the modern part of the game. We lament so much about where football has gone. But the best part of what's happened in football is the fact that now players don't feel shame. They will tell you if they've had, if they're having symptoms with their head. I mean, it's not something to play with. So obviously Tate presented at some point, we presume, and then they've had to be very cautious. Once that happens, once you go in the concussion protocol, there are a series of tests and steps that have to be taken in order for you to be cleared by a medical doctor to play. And it is our guess as of right now, as of earlier today around lunchtime, Tate had not been able to pass those tests. So you can't play him if that's the case. And if that is 100% the reality of our situation, I think they were going to do maybe one more test before the game. So we'll see. Then Brock Glenn is going to start this football game. He's not lacking in confidence. He's not lacking in physical tools, but he's obviously lacking when it comes to experience. He has never started a college football game. It is a hell of a thing to have to start one now.
Yeah, the only good part about it, if it goes that direction, and we want to be clear, There might be one more protocol test before the game kicks off. Mr. Rodemaker, Alan Rodemaker, said earlier today on a Sirius XM show that lunchtime was the big one, the big test. And so there might be one more if they didn't get the result that they wanted. But the one silver lining here is that Brock Glenn has known for weeks that he's one play away. When Jordan goes down and it becomes clear that night against North Alabama that you're coming off the bench before A.J. Duffy, you have to know at that point that I am one play away. And he was last week in Gainesville. And he checks out of a run call to throw a ball on his first play. So this is a guy that wants the ball. He was preparing for this moment, but I don't know that you're ever prepared for something like this when it's a championship setting. It's your first crack at it. Perhaps ignorance is bliss for Brock Glenn tonight, but if it is Brock Glenn that plays, there's a couple of keys, and we can go into it now if you wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of how you need to call the game for Brock Glenn versus Tate Rodemaker, or we could just keep it general at the moment, which is it is not confirmed. And no matter what, Mike Norvell has a game plan that and a job tonight as a amateur psychologist that is a whole lot more difficult than if Jordan Travis were leading the team off the sideline in search of 13-0, in search of a college football playoff berth.
Well, you think about the emotions, Tom, of a situation like this. It's hard to gauge how Florida State's going to come out. I would think they'll be locked in, focused. They love one another. They've worked hard together. There's been a ton of blood, sweat, and tears. They've been banged up for weeks. Now it's just another guy going down, unfortunately, due to injury. But they've rallied each and every time. So my suspicion here is that they will come out spirited and ready to go. It's a championship game after all. You fought hard to get here. You can still win this football game. You got to minimize mistakes from the quarterback position. Brock is a kid that has a lot of ability. I think that Brock is a guy that in some ways will really help you out tonight in the read option. This is a kid that will pull it. He will run. He is a threat to run. There is no tape on Brock Glenn. There's no tape on how he's going to handle a game, a drive. They don't have tendencies. Coaches love to look, even at backup quarterbacks, to see their tendencies when they get into games. Brock Glenn, as I said, has thrown, 4 passes this year? He's 35 total yards. I mean, you don't know what he is if you're the opposing coach right now. And what he is a really good athlete and a big, thick, strong kid who plays with a bit of reckless abandon. And that's something that you're probably going to have to dial back. I know every coach would rather say whoa than giddy up. So it's good that he has those features. But in a game like this, against a good team, a well-coached team, you're going to have to really try to rein him in a little bit. I'm not talking about reining in the run game because I want him to pull it. We've been complaining all year long that no Florida State quarterback would pull it on those read options and go. You have that opportunity. I think, Tom, to get to your point and talk about the bigger picture, what they'll call, I don't know how much of the playbook Brock Glenn knows. My suspicion is that he knows the playbook, but he hasn't had to run it in a game. So how much is he comfortable with it? And that is, Mike Norvell's probably going to gauge some of that in the game. Now, what you would do is perhaps limit the amount of reads. Maybe you cut the field in half. You give him run-pass options, a ton of RPO tonight, guys. Let's see if you can establish Trey on the give, and how does that work? If you can't, and they haven't been able to do that in the first half this year, then, obviously at that point, you're going to have to probably roll him out and give him run-pass option and tell him to take off if the first guy's not there. I'm kind of interested just to see what the game plan is. I think it's RPO laden. I want to wait and see. We've got I just talked to Ira and Aslan. They left here about 15 minutes ago. The stadium's right over here. I can actually see it from where I'm sitting. And it's, again, they'll be there shortly. So kind of curious to see what their observations are when the team comes out, because do you get Bless Harris back? Does Robert Scott start at left tackle? Do you have those two very key ingredients to the run game tonight? If you don't, obviously, this is going to make the task that much harder.
So I will take a guess here. Mike Norvell said at his press conference yesterday at 3:15 that the game plan wouldn't be much different for Tate or Brock. To me, that says, well, I understand there's a little bit of gamesmanship there,
Sure.
but I think that means they're going to try and impose their will and run the ball early. I think that means they're going to be predictable early, and they're going to see if how they finish the Florida game is how they can start this week's game with a little bit more smash mouth running And if it fails, then, you can break out an individual tendency set of plays for Brock versus Tate, and you could go. But I think basically he might be telling you the truth, which is we're going to try and make Trey Benson the star of this football game tonight, and then we'll run our plays off of that. We'll see if it succeeds early. But the difference between Tate Rodemaker and Brock Glenn, Tate holds the ball too long, so you got to protect him against that. Brock wants to make the big play. He's big game hunting. Two different mindsets there. You got to protect Brock from himself, even in he's thrown how many passes? 6? Is it?
4? Something
4?
like that. Yeah.
Okay, I've already seen it even against North Alabama and Southern Miss. There were checkdowns open in those situations. He might have been looking at a checkdown in a couple of situations and says, no, I'm going somewhere else with the ball. I think Louisville will give you the checkdown. I saw Gator Kirk put it in the chat, dink and dunk. Yeah, man. And I might mandate that and say, this is where you're throwing the ball, young man. I don't need turnovers. If it gets to a point where you're seeing that Louisville is sustaining things on offense and you got to cut it loose, then you cut it loose. But until such time as they prove that they can consistently move the ball, I'm not asking Brock to play hero ball. That is my concern in this game with Brock, is that he tries to put it on his shoulders. He's already told you, in the swamp, first play, they've got a run call. I want to throw the ball. The hell with what they called, we're checking into something else. Man, that tells me, I'm glad I have that information if I'm Mike Norvell. All right, we've got an aggressive dude here. Yeah. Let's make sure that perhaps in a situation where we don't need a mistake, that I don't give him that option. So we'll see how they manage it, though.
Yeah, it's how you get the ball out of his hands and to whom, and what is it you're able to establish early. I think it's interesting. You're not going to run the offense. When Mike says nothing will change, well, I don't think that's true. I know why he said it. But I think that the basis for what he runs is, obviously he's always going to want to run the ball. He's always going to want to run the ball. Now, that's been part of the problem for Florida State this year. And obviously it's a minimal problem because they're 12-0 and they lead the ACC in scoring, both offense and defense. So obviously they're a team that's had a lot of success. But within that success, we thought we would see more consistency. Now, two things have happened. The injury bug has riddled the offense, and that's really led to some disjointedness in the way that we watch these games play out on offense and execution. But I would also say, because he always wants to be able to run the ball, that the basis for his offense is to run the ball. He has never given up on it this year. He has come into each game trying to run the ball because that's who he is fundamentally. The problem is they just haven't been able to do it early in football games, and then he's had to kind of figure out a way to patchwork it until you get to the second half after you've had some success throwing it. I just wonder tonight if I don't want to say go into a shell, but when you say protect Brock Glenn, is that via Trey Benson solely, really just trying to muscle people around? Are we going to line up and really try to play big boy football and run the ball? If they can do it, Tom, they're going to win the game, but they just haven't been able to do it.
No, I think protecting him means you simplify the reads. You don't give him a third or a fourth, and you tell him run if it's not there. You tell him to, get rid of the ball, throw it out of bounds. I don't care. Like, I'm talking about the options before him. You're not checking at the line. You're running the play that we call. Now, you can look to the line, and maybe we change it, but you're not changing anything on your own. Like, those are the types of things I'm talking about. It's not necessarily that he's going to, turn around and hand the ball off 35 times come hell or high water, and we'll see where it is at the end. I'm just saying, how much freedom do you give him in this situation until maybe a quarter into it or 2 or 3 drives into it that, okay, his eyes, I'm looking in his eyes and he's settled. He's not, he doesn't have saucers. Because I think saucer-eyed Brock Glenn's different than saucer-eyed Tate Rodemaker. Tate might be timid in that moment, and Brock might just want to go 100 miles an hour, to which you say, all right, man, look, I love that you've got that in you. This is not the time for that, baby. It's a 7-3 ball game. You don't need to do anything crazy here.
You can run him, though. You can run him early and get him really, kind of ease him into the game that way. I've said this on the show many times, and I think anybody who's ever played a physical sport understands what I'm saying. That could be football, or it could be hockey, it could be whatever. You can't wait to get hit. In big games, you can't wait to get hit. You really want to get knocked around early. You want to feel that. You want to hit somebody and have somebody hit you and then you get into it. You're like, oh, now we're playing football. Now we're just playing football. I've been doing that since I was a kid. Like all these guys have been doing that since I was 6 years old. I can play some football. You got to try to get them to where they just feel very comfortable playing the game, and they're not thinking about the magnitude of what's at stake, the magnitude of the moment. They're just playing football. And however you got to do that, you roll them out. It could be – I just think he's got to be very careful early in this game, Tom, meaning Mike Norvell. We have been too reliant before establishing the run on the screen game. Yeah. And it's interesting to me. 4 or 5 weeks ago, they really got that screen game clicking. The timing improved, and they used a lot of varieties of screen. They would do a bunch of eye candy. They'd come out, look that way. You'd pull the right guard, have him come left, and then he'd circle back around. You empty the tight end out of the backfield. All these kind of, counter plays with a screen off of it. It was awesome to watch. But all of a sudden, because they worked so well, I felt like Mike started to fall in love with it and just call it over and over and over again before we ever established a run.
Yeah, Wake Forest is a good example of that. There was a lot of underneath stuff. I think if it's off of counter, then you're in business. Even if you don't establish counter and you run a screen off that, that's fine. I think we've been calling straight screens too, meaning there's no element to it. This is a halfback screen the whole way. I believe that was the call on third down in the first quarter against Florida that almost got picked in that situation. Like I agree with you. You don't want a corner to be able to sit on that because that's a house call.
That's 7 points. Yeah. Pick 6. Yeah.
Right. And the one thing is just watching Louisville defensively, we didn't do a breakdown on that this week on the site, but watching all these key games they played, their tendency is to give you the outlet, to give you the check down to the running back. Now, I don't know with a backup quarterback if they're going to get a little bit more aggressive and come downhill. Like the action is in the middle. They will bring pressures, but that's usually in the middle. They'll give you that little flare if you want it. And if you're Brock, just take that all night, dude. It could be different guys. I mean, hell, we saw last week with Tate at quarterback that they've got Keon Coleman lined up essentially as the running back in the formation. Like, so there are ways to get your guys the football. I would prefer that if Jaheim Bell's on the field, we don't pop pass it to him twice, maybe once. Maybe they're going to run a play off of that tonight. I don't know. But there's a way to get your playmakers the ball in space, and it doesn't have to be 15, 20 yards down the field. Now, don't get me wrong. He's going to have to make throws down the field at some point, but I don't know that that's the primary thing here. You want to build it slowly if you can, if Louisville's not scoring on you and bunches going the other way, and then make your assessment on, all right, where are we going to pick this defense apart? The big part of it, too, and it always was, even if Tate was going to start, and we don't know for sure which player is just yet, the defense has to lead the way tonight. That's the whole thing. The defense has to set the tone and be dominant up front as they were last week from the first quarter all the way to the end of the game.
Yeah, I saw somebody in the chat a moment ago say that he's running a deep post on the first play. I don't have a problem with that. I'd loosen him up early. I would maybe let him. I mean, this is a simple post to Keon, and let's see what happens. Let it go. Let it go. If you want, just a simple 9 route, run as fast as you can. I'm going to throw it as far as I can, and let's go. And just kind of let it get your arm loose. Let's go. Let's have a little fun with this because you also show a defense at that point that they have to protect all facets of the field, and he's got a big arm.
It's under control. That's an under control call, though. Yeah. It's not. All right, we've got a backside post here that we're setting up. So if you can hold it for 3 seconds, then flash your flip your hips and let's go. Like a 9 is a very simple. Yes, you're right. It changes the eye level. It could be a waist pitch in baseball. Yeah. Thank you to Z-Chan, by the way, who came in as he always does with the giant
sitting here with James B, getting ready for the game. Let's go, Noles. Beat them Red Birds. Thank you, Z-Chan. Appreciate you all year long, man. All you guys, everybody in the chat, all that good stuff. Appreciate you. Is Jeff wearing the LSU, UM, or UF Good Luck Game Day outfit? If not, there's time to change. You know what? I've not worn any specific thing to any game this year other than whatever suits my fancy. This is a garnet and gold special. This is a coach's polo. So I love this coach's polo, and I haven't worn it on the pregame this year. But after I get done doing pregame here, I'm going to go and I'm going to go as a fan. I'm not working in the box tonight, so I got to wear the FSU gear. And I'm happy about that. Corey and Ira will be in the box. Obviously, Aslan's there. They'll all be set to cover you with the post-game stuff. And, of course, Tom will be doing post-game with Gene. So tonight I get to see a mutual friend of ours, Tom. I'll shout out to Ingram Smith. I'm going to be hanging out with the fine folks at the Battles Inn and have an opportunity to talk shop.
Oh, talk acquisitions? That sounds wonderful.
I might have an opinion or two on roster building, so we'll see.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure that'll come out early in the game too. I'm wondering. I missed out on the event last night. I always enjoy those because you get to see just how, countrywide, in some cases international, our fan base is. Because when you go on the road and you don't have a difficult airport to get to, Charlotte is very easy to get to as an airport. You get to see Noles that are overseas and have been living there for 5 years, or Alaska or California. I'm assuming you've seen a lot more garnet than cardinal red on the streets of Charlotte the last 24 hours.
Yeah. Now, in fairness to the folks at Louisville, I was at a Florida State event last night. So it was, obviously it was unbelievable, that event. The place that they had it at was fantastic. We had a really good time. Huge establishment, 2 different bars, all that. Later on, I did, as you know, Tom, take it to Conley's. As I am known to do.
Those look like fun photographs you were taking. Yes.
We had a blast, buddy. We had a blast. The owner of the Great Metro Deli and I had a good time. We met some people from New York, your people. They were hilarious. And this is one of the things I like. It was a bar full of Noles like that. Everybody knows about Conley's.
No, wait. So the Noles took over Connolly's?
Yeah. It was great. But there's a bar full of Noles, and then there's this group of like 9 guys that aren't wearing a team affiliated shirt, not Louisville, not Florida State, not anything. They're watching Washington, Oregon, as we all were on the screens there behind the bar. And the one guy starts talking, and the next thing I know, I'll make a long story short here. They're all from New York. They're all from the Bronx. They all have been lifelong friends. These guys are in their 60s and late 50s. They've been they pick a championship game every year and go to it. They have no affiliation. Last year they were in Las Vegas for the Pac-12. Yeah, that's a good one. I'd pick that one every year, by the way. Then, but they go every year. They just pick a game before the season even starts. And they say, where are we going this year, guys? And then like 9 or 10 of them load up, fly into that place, stay for 3 days, go crazy, and then fly back to New York. It's silly. But they love college football.
Well, this is the one thing. The weather has been crummy, many of our appearances in this championship game. But the setup in Charlotte's wonderful. If you can get a hotel downtown, you just walk to the game. I mean, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. And I think tonight when, the cameras roll just after 8 o'clock, I think kickoff is 8:15 officially on ABC. But I think you're going to see a hell of a lot more Nole fans there. Maybe the loss to Kentucky this last week for Louisville maybe took a little bit of the wind out of the sails for Louisville fans. Not that they're not a good fan base. Don't get me wrong. They're an excellent fan base. But I would imagine you'd see a majority of Nole fans there tonight. And it gets interesting. I mean, there's politicking going on. You already see it with Texas winning big in the Big 12 championship game over an Oklahoma State team that got smoked by UCF. So everybody pump your brakes there about the accomplishment of what Texas did today. But there's politicking going on. It's close to halftime in the SEC championship game where Alabama leads 10-7. They're scared crapless. I'll bleep myself. Post-game show is usually a little more colorful. Greg Sankey is not on the desk of College Game Day speaking as loudly as he possibly can without legitimate fear that his conference won't be in the playoff. He wouldn't need to if this wasn't a situation where if Alabama wins, nobody from the SEC is getting in. I think that's the reality of what we're looking at if Alabama
they know it. I think they absolutely know it.
Right.
And by the way, I think Georgia will come back and win the game. But they absolutely are worried about that. You're absolutely correct. And it's funny to watch. I like to see him squirm a little bit. Man, be better in the out-of-conference, guys. I mean, be better in the out-of-conference. Is there anything more absurd than Sankey saying, well, what if Alabama hadn't played Texas? Yeah, what if? They did, dumbass. They did, and they lost at home by they lost by double digits.
You're right. Yeah.
Hey, Greg, what if Florida State hadn't played LSU in Florida? But they did, and they won both those games. I mean, what are you talking about?
No, it's desperation, and it's funny. The troubling part is how the desk at ESPN gobbles it up. That's uncomfortable. It's a little Gary Danielson, Tim Tebow, or Cam Newton energy. It's got a little bit of that to it for some of those guys on the panel. I understand there's an investment made in the SEC, but the commissioner's supposed to do that. He's supposed to go to war, and he would not. The louder you speak, the weaker you feel. And clearly he was very loud this morning. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops as the day goes on. But we've already gotten our number one shocker. It was 20. So I was at Prism last night. The Marching Chiefs were on a bus ride overnight. That show is phenomenal. It'll touch you to your core because it's not just about Florida State. It's all kinds of music, from symphony to mariachi, everything in between. Anyway, we get out. And it's 20-10 at half. I asked my wife, I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and I said, oh, yeah, Oregon? She goes, no, Washington. Oh, we raced to Corner Pocket to watch the second half of that game. And damn it, man, we've already got one shocker in the books for this weekend. It's chalk by the playoff rankings, but it's not chalk by how Vegas saw that game going.
No, I don't. Yeah, I was very surprised by that. Very surprised. But you know what? Good for Washington. I've always enjoyed that program. By the way, that is 17-7 Alabama, sir.
They just completed the drive. They had a 4th and 4 in Georgia territory, went for it. I guess they picked it up and scored afterwards.
Yeah, this is now it gets interesting, friends. Now it gets interesting. Well, we shall see if Georgia falls to pieces. Hey, look, at the end of the day, no team in the modern era, in the modern poll era, has ever won back-to-back-to-back national championships. It is very, very difficult to do. So it is not surprising that they are coming across a little adversity at this point. I worry not about those teams. I worry about this team. I worry about what Florida State's going to do, and I'd love to see them put a ribbon on what has been a fantastic season, what has been a season for all of us to remember, one that I will remind you is not cheapened with a loss here tonight against Louisville. Now, is it enhanced, emboldened with a win? Yes, it is. It is. You're only adding to the goodness of what has already been an incredible season. But a loss with a third-string quarterback starting that has never started a college football game is nothing to be ashamed of if it happens. Yeah. I'm certainly not willing to concede that they're going to lose. I'm merely pointing out, just to kind of level ourselves before we walk in here, hey, whatever happens, I hope that we can appreciate what Florida State did this year. I am not typically on the airwaves as a rah-rah guy. I don't pretend to be objective. I try to be, but everybody knows I'm a Nole. But even within that context, I don't often cheer for the sake of cheering about certain teams. I try to talk about who they are honestly, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This team has really been one of the more enjoyable teams for me to root for that we have fielded in a long time. They happen to go undefeated, and that's awesome. But I really like the makeup of this team. I like where they came from. I like how they arrived at their destination. I like the pieces. I like the fact that it's become, oddly, this really close family from all over. When you bring in these transfers, it's hard to accomplish what Mike Norvell and staff have accomplished in terms of the synergy and the bond that they have. And you can tell it. You can watch it. They make each other laugh. They screw with each other. They're intense at the right times. This is a group that plays smart football. There's just a lot to like about this group. So you want it so bad for them. I do hate that it's a situation where you're not at full strength and you're not even close to full strength. I just would have liked them to be fully equipped to finish the job here tonight because they've earned that. They've worked hard enough. You would like to see a group like this have the best possible chance to win the game. But, hey, it's football, and it's a war of attrition. And unfortunately for Florida State, this year they suffered really an imbalance in terms of injuries on one side of the ball.
We should note for the nearly 1,200 here, thank you for being a part of the program. If you're just joining us, many are climbing in, I think, at halftime now to check in and see what's going on. We don't have official word yet on who Florida State's quarterback is going to be. Jeff has said at the beginning of the show, the feeling up there is that more and more as the day goes on, it's going to be Brock, but it's not official yet. There may be one more protocol moment to come for Tate to see if Tate is going to be the quarterback. So if you're hopping in, you're asking that question, the answer is it's not settled yet, but it certainly does feel like it's trending towards true freshman Brock Glenn. We also have a note here on the uniforms. They're going classic tonight, as they should. They're the home team, the higher seed, obviously all those kinds of things. So it is Garnet Top's gold pants and the gold helmets tonight. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just the good old-fashioned Florida State garnet and gold tonight going to be donned on the field for the Noles. So
yeah, you may have saw me pick up my phone. I wasn't being rude. I'm checking my notes from those that are there and making sure that I'm not missing anything here. As we're still quite a ways away from the game. Game kicks off just after 8. It's 5:30. But just seeing what we can glean right now about the relative health of this team and who's going to be good to go and who isn't.
yeah, I saw a comment in the chat. Sacknell said, "Smelling the roses." Yeah, this is it's a weird moment where if you have a third string guy in there, you smell the roses and then go take care of business and let's play for the roses.
Yeah, go win. Go play hard. I really mean this. I know what's at stake. I get that if they lose, they're out of the playoff. They won't finish the season with a conference championship. And so there will be unfinished business going into next year. I mean, I get it. I mean, if this championship eludes you, by definition, you have more work to do.
Yep.
I think they do anyhow because the roster's not completely where it needs to be to compete with a Georgia yet, in my mind. But that said, you kind of have nothing to lose here. I mean, if we're being honest about all of this, who in their right mind thinks that any team who's down to their third string quarterback is anywhere close to fully functional and operational at their peak powers? We know that they're not. Now, are there instances in college football history? Yes, you alluded to it, Ohio State. No doubt. It's fascinating that team did what they did, and they were loaded, and kudos to them. But they're an outlier. Most of the time, if you get to your third string quarterback, think about it in the NFL sense. I mean, when a starter goes down at quarterback, you pretty much know the season's over for most teams. For Florida State, it's not a starter. It's Jordan Travis, a dynamic player who's the focal point of your offense. And then it's your backup who's been in the program for several years, for 4 years now. You lose all of that experience, all of those practice reps, all of those game experiences. It's all gone at the most important position. So a reasonable person can say, look, man, let it fly. Have some fun out there. You don't have anything to lose. We're proud of you already. Just play fast. Don't play like you're protecting something. Yep. That will not help Brock Glenn. He's going to make mistakes, but make him at full speed, and that goes for everybody tonight.
That's interesting. I mostly agree, but I would protect him early by, again, I'm not saying never throw the ball, and I'm not saying don't take a deep shot to change the eye level of defense. I think those are reasonable, controlled calls. But let's just check the chin of Louisville and see if this can be a Trey Benson night. Just early on, I know consistently hadn't been there this year. We've had home run plays, but we haven't had a lot of 3s and 4s and 5s that put us ahead of the chains. But maybe, just maybe, and this is where, again, folks, if you're not a member of warchant.com, it's time to sign up. Like, today's the day. Tonight's the night. We're giving you $1 for a month. That's going to get you through the portal season. That's going to get you through signing day.
Recruiting portal. That's all you need to say, Tom.
I mean, it's a ton of stuff, but it starts now. Sign up $1 for the month or 50% off for your first year, because Jeff needs time, and rightfully so, to get into the stadium and go through all the hullabaloo around Charlotte. We started this pregame earlier than we typically do for roadies. Usually those road contests, pregame shows are right up to kickoff. And so we have reports from warchant.com from our people in the press box about who's warming up. But you want to sign up now, get into the tribal council before the game starts, and see what offensive linemen are available tonight. That is a huge deal. That is a humongous deal. If Robert Scott's available tonight and or Bless Harris is available tonight, our chances of succeeding with a ground and pound attack with 60-40 run versus, we've been more 60-40 pass this year, those chances increase. And maybe at that point, Trey Benson can be the lead dog for you, setting the tone for play action. And then play action where they have to respect the run with Trey Benson, with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Jaheim Bell. I don't care if it's a third-string quarterback. That is a proposition that leads to losses for a defense and points scored against.
I do feel I've been trying to get I talk about this a lot over the years, and I've been good at it for whatever reason, getting a feel for a team or an attitude or a belief or a lack thereof or a burgeoning problem or whatever it might be. We tend to try to get out in front of these things, and I've tried to get a read on this game all day. I woke up this morning just to reveal like the way that I thought about this game from the start of the day. Sitting here getting coffee and thinking to myself, I think Brock Glenn's going to start. I just don't like the way that the conversation has gone, even to what Mike Norvell had said when he was asked about it in the press conference. And I kind of thought, I think we're getting intimations here that Brock Glenn's going to start. And then from there, I started to think, well, what does it mean? And man, that kid is awfully cocky. And I mean that in a good way.
The right way. Yeah.
You want your quarterback to be on the verge of being a bit of an a-hole. And what I mean by that is, at least in terms of his belief in himself. I'm not talking about personality traits. Obviously, Jordan's quiet and kind and all those things, but I'm talking about what can be revealed with your body language and the way you play the game. And I want to see extreme confidence. Well, he's got it. Now, will he have it? Will he have it tonight when he's not going into a blowout, or he's not going into a situation where the game doesn't matter? Does he have it knowing that the ACC championship is on the line? Does he have it starting in prime time with the nation watching and a college football playoff berth on the line? I can't answer that question. None of us can. We don't know whether or not he will handle that well. We'd like to think that he will. His personality seems to suggest that it's a situation he can handle, but we don't know till somebody is put in that position how they're going to handle it. And so how quickly will we get a sense that he's comfortable or not? Yeah. I don't know. Last week, Tom, we talked about this a lot. Everything that could go wrong to start a game with your backup quarterback on the road in the swamp went wrong in the first quarter. I mean, everything from right off the bat, you get your 4 yards, and then you have an 11-yard loss because your running back is trying to do too much. And now it's 3rd and 17, and you're behind it, and there's no way you're going to let the kid make a throw in that situation. So you almost get picked off, and you survive, and Florida goes down and scores, and you're kind of immediately thinking to yourself, okay, this is going to be that kind of a game. But if you avoid that kind of silliness tonight and the game kind of plays out in a normal fashion, how quickly does Brock Glenn get comfortable? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think, early on, there's a lot of questions about that, like relative skill for Brock. What have we seen in practice, those types of things. I want to start first with BF Noles, who contributed, and thank you to BF Noles for, contributing to the program. It's about timeouts and play clocks and things of that nature. Do you guys think the pre-snap problems we saw last week in the swamp is going to be even more of an issue tonight than it was last week with Brock? There's a lot to unpack there, because I think it was in no uncertain terms expressed that the plays were getting in slowly from the sideline, which has nothing to do with Tate. You talk about conspiring against a kid who needs your help. Like Trey Benson's going AWOL. You got drop passes. You got the play coming in late. You're not calling timeout and taking delays of game in the first half. Like, that has to be better, and that's on Mike. Like, you saw it in the first half of the Texas-Oklahoma State game today, where Sark does a great job. He's going to the halftime locker room. There's a substitution issue. Oklahoma State gets to sub all the way to 3 seconds.
They get a delay a game, and they missed the field goal.
And they missed the field goal on a 4th and 5 that they were going to go for. And they say, what's the deal with that? He had 2 timeouts. And Sark says, that's my fault. Yeah, in the first half specifically, use the freaking timeout, Mike. They didn't last week for Tate. You got to watch the clock for Brock tonight. It's a true freshman in this setting. So there's a lot there to unpack, and I think it's a good question from BF Noles.
Wilson, thank you, BF Noles. Wilson writes, am I wrong for being legitimately more excited about Brock Glenn starting than I am for Tate? I get that he's a lower floor, but that kid has some sauce. You're not wrong. How you feel is how you feel. I know that's not rooted in some sort of angst or animosity towards Tate. I think the bottom line is your feeling, Wilson, is representative of the vast majority of this fan base. If I had an unofficial poll that I could relay to you here, because I talked to people all night last night till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And well, we were Ubering, buddy. So had great conversations. And I will tell you something now. I think 85, 90% of the people were excited. Not like, hey, you think Tate can go? It was like, is Brock starting? Like, they were kind of, people are ready for the Brock Glenn era. Now, part of that is you always like the backup, even if it's the backup of the backup. And then secondly, let's be honest, Tate Rodemaker has had one good half of football. It was against Louisville, and it was last year, and it was awesome. And he'll always have that half of football, and we'll thank him for it because we won the game. And it was a big win. But every other time we've seen Tate, he's been, he doesn't move the needle. He's not consistent enough. And so I think people are kind of like, all right, I I got you, Tate. I see what you are. They don't know what Brock Glenn is. They've just heard he's physically gifted. He's cocky. He's a big, strong kid. He was a big name recruit that we wrestled away from Ohio State. They know he's a player.
Yeah, I'm the guy who last week said in the postgame show I was disappointed in Tate's performance, but he did what was asked of him. Like, two things can be true. I thought there was more in there, more verticality. I thought there was going to be a little bit more fun. It wasn't. Some of that is not his fault, and some of that is the situation of the game. They were playing complementary. You go back 12 years to the game that we won in Florida. Should have been a shutout, but Jermaine fumbled towards the end. But Jimbo saw that, they're not going to score tonight. We're just going to punt, and we're going to run it into the middle of the line of scrimmage. We get up 2 scores, this thing's over. I think Mike, in a similar way, even though we were down, felt like the only way we lose this game is if there is a brain fart. And so let's stay away from that. Tate was still in some third and long situations and got us out of it and made the throws that he had to. So I think Tate did what was required of him, but he wasn't an eraser. Brock has the potential to be an eraser of an issue. Now, Buffalo Tom asked the crowd, or asked in the chat, how do you think he's going to play? I think if they let him play, let's just say they let him go, he will make plays and he will make some mistakes. He'll make really big plus plays, but then he's going to make some mistakes. You're like, geez, that's a freshman. That's absolutely a freshman. So I think they're trying to stay away from those big mistakes right now.
Yeah, well, they're mistakes. You got to gauge how the game's going. If Louisville, like you're saying, if Louisville is struggling to move the ball, yep. All right, well, shorten the game, everybody. Get to the fourth quarter and see if you can execute. Your defense has helped you win games in this situation time and again. You can lean in on that. I'd really, there's a part of me, man. Brock Glenn, there's something about him. We both said that when we watched him early on in camp. We said, man, there's a little something to that guy. He has got a cannon. He is physically tough. He picked up the offense pretty quick. Yeah. The only thing that held him back was obviously he had the injury. He came in early in the season, got hurt his hand. And so then you had a real problem. We don't know in the passing game what he's going to be tonight. That usually is helped by a lot of game reps. You got to get out there and play, get your adrenaline to calm down, kind of read it, slow the game down. Really only happens if you get a lot of reps. So I don't know how he's going to do with that. Maybe he hits the ground running. I don't know. But I do think he is going to cause problems for Louisville in the read option because he's going to keep, Tom, and we haven't put it on tape this year that we'll keep. He's going to keep, and he's going to run for 15 yards, 12 yards here and there, and they're going to have to play honest.
Yeah, the way I describe it is this way. Tate at his best is a thrower. Like, he makes throws, and you're like, geez, okay, that's a Sunday throw. Brock at his best, with what we've seen limited, in spring camp and fall camp before he got hurt, is a playmaker at his best. He's a playmaker. He gets in situations and rhythms, albeit with a green jersey. Live is a different animal, but he has a knack. There's an intangible there, which is, the thing that we can't pinpoint and say, boy, you should see the way he throws the corner route. It's just, he'll get in a rhythm. He sees the field. He sees what's happening. He can sift through chaos and make order out of it. Like, that's what Brock does at his best. But it's just hard to know because, in those situations, it's usually the second or third team defense, and he's in a non-contact jersey. Now, they did make him live in the scrimmages that we were not able to see, and apparently he performed well in those settings. So there's a lot to sort through there. It's a bit of a mess, but this about Brock Glenn. He wants the ball. He is not afraid. He is the least bit afraid. If you're going to check in your first play on the road, I keep coming back to it, but think about that. The mentality of a player who has a run called for him when he's managing a 2-point lead for Florida State on the road in the swamp that said, nah, hell with that. I'm throwing the ball. Like, that's in here. That's not something that is taught. That is not something that's developed. The dude wants the ball. That can help you and hurt you. And as a freshman, it tends to hurt you more than it helps you. But this could be a coming out party tonight, too. I'm not going to leave that off the table. It's a possibility that he could just be a playmaker tonight. And by the end of the game, we're smiling going, holy crap, we got us one. It's possible.
It is. I'm going in with very little in the way of expectations for Brock Glenn. He could play great and surprise us all, and we'd be very, very pleased with that, obviously, and we'd be excited because of what it means for the future. He could go out there and look like a true freshman and throw up all over himself. because he's never started a college football game and he's being asked to do something really difficult against a good Louisville team. And maybe it's too much. I don't know. Could probably fall somewhere in between is what I think. But it's hard to know.
So in the limited live reps that we've seen, and some of them are Southern Miss and North Alabama, this is what has me concerned. If it's off schedule, his eye level drops. Now that might change tonight because he might be trying to make a play because he knows it's garbage time. So he might be big game hunting, knowing that this is not exactly a real situation where the game's on the line. But I didn't like that. It's a freshman trait. It's something that develops over time. Like it can get better. But I just didn't like in a couple of those situations, albeit against bad competition and in garbage time, that if the rush gets around him, the eyes go from here down to here, and then you're lost in that moment. So I think that's something that they might try to protect against. But the data is so limited. When we see him in practice, he's non-contact. When you see him in games, it's garbage time. There's no telling what could happen. We know what the potential is, but there's no telling what could happen tonight.
You're going to get too many moments. It happens all the time with young quarterbacks of this, where it's like, okay, it's upon me. I'm looking for an escape. It's like you're going to see some of that tonight.
Right.
Sometimes it results into a guy getting out of a tough situation and running for 15 yards. Other times you're like, just take the sack, man. Don't do anything dumb. So an angsty sort of game tonight. Again, we talked a little bit about what this Louisville team is and what Florida State is. It's, again, a little bit more difficult to read this game because you just don't have a profile with Brock Glenn as your starting quarterback. At least you had a semi-profile of what Florida State is with Tate Rodemaker, and certainly you know what they are with Jordan Travis. But you don't have a profile in the passing game with Brock Glenn. So it's hard to break this down because we spent some time yesterday talking about what Louisville is, for example, against the pass. And they're in the top 25 against the pass in total EPA. They're 25th. They're 23rd in EPA per play in the passing game. And they're number 12 in the country, Tom, in success rate in the pass game against the pass game. So those advanced metrics, tell you it's going to be tough sledding, and gets back to your point about wanting to run the football.
It's like the old radio adage, the audience refreshes every 15 minutes or so. Seeing again 1,500 plus of you who are ready to go. This has been a long day. We want to kick this thing off. You still got to wait 2.5 hours before we see who starts for Florida State. We do not have official word about who the starter is. We are relying at this moment, before official word from Florida State or the news breaks, on the intel, which is right now it looks like it's going to be Brock. It's not certain yet. We don't want to, report it. And then you say, hey, the guys at Warchant are saying 100% it's Brock Glenn. We're not there yet, but it's sounding like it's Brock Glenn. That is why we are talking about Brock at length. But it could be that perhaps a final evaluation before kickoff tonight goes the proper way for Tate. At any rate, let's just say for a moment that it did, and that Tate comes off the sidelines. You have to be extra careful about the feedback you're getting from him every drive, every play. Because if something looks like it's out of whack, the instant you see that, you're going to have to go put Brock in. That's the reason you got him reps this week, is to be ready for the moment. But right now, we do not, I repeat, do not have 100% certainty as to who the starter is going to be for Florida State.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you my opinion is that Brock Glenn is starting. So we don't know that, but that's my opinion. If it's not Brock, it will be interesting. I have a hard time believing Tate Rodemaker will be starting this game tonight. And for a variety of reasons, I say that. I will also tell you this. We have not spent any time on this show today in the final 5 minutes here. We haven't really talked at all about A.J. Duffy. And now he's a play away from having to play. He's been in the system longer than Brock Glenn. The odd part about analyzing A.J. Duffy, and I think Tom will back me up on this, is that he's not good in practice, guys. He's just not good in practice. He has good days and bad days. But I will confess that when he's gotten into games, albeit not stressful situations, he's played pretty well. He's looked like he's comfortable. Yeah. Sometimes people are just gamers. They don't play well unless the lights are on. They don't. So I don't know what we would get if A.J. Duffy has to play, because certainly it's a possibility. I mean, we have to allow for this.
Yeah.
If Brock is in over his head and he reacts poorly, and all of a sudden, like you said earlier, he comes back and you're reading his body language and you're trying to get telltale signs that he's all there and he's not, you can go to A.J. Duffy. He's been here longer. He certainly has to know the offense.
Yeah, I thought when he got in, it was I agree with you. It's the antithesis of practice. He just looked so calm. There was even before Tate made that performance and career, changing, if you will, in terms of how the fan base looked at him. Performance at Louisville, leading the Florida State to a 35-31 win. Before that same season last year, Tate looked rattled when he was in games, and AJ looked calm, steady-handed. So it could very well be, but you're right. There's a reason Brock is coming off the sidelines first all season long as the third string quarterback. Mm-hmm. He outperformed him. He passed him, even with a broken non-throwing hand that held him out for a long period of time during the season. Brock was still ahead of AJ when he got back off the mend. Yeah. So that tells you all you need to know about the pecking order and where things stand. I know we have a few more people to thank before we sign off as well that have contributed to the program. So we appreciate those contributions. Ciro Santana, just a thank you note from Miami, where they're not playing football today.
No, they are not. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you guys for all you do from Miami. Go Noles.
Next up, 413 like that. Patrick Hill, go Noles. Thanks for the shout out to Prism. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do this. The dedicated students that are on their way up, and they're going to be playing in the stands tonight in Charlotte. Hopefully they're half as loud as they were in the Swamp. You'll hear them with your own ears tonight, but they were outstanding in the Swamp, especially playing during Tom Petty between the third and fourth quarter.
It was awesome. I mean, and they lit it up too. They went straight into it. I mean, good job, David. That cracked me up. I was like, go ahead, man. And they were ruthless.
They pissed off those backwoods rivals of ours. I love that. That's outstanding. Patrick, thank you very much. I think we got one or two more. Yeah. Okay. If Alabama wins, are we out either way? Go Noles. What do you think with that?
No, I believe Florida State will go to the college football playoff with a win tonight, no matter what happens in that other game.
Yeah, I agree. Because even if it's ugly with Brock, Tate comes back. It's not like it's a season-ending injury for Tate. So you can make that argument that, man, these guys. I don't
think you want to set the precedent of a Power 5 team with the cachet that Florida State has, one of the biggest brands in all of college football, that went out of their way to schedule an SEC giant back-to-back years, beat them back-to-back years, beat Florida back-to-back years, this one on the road with your backup quarterback, beat Clemson on the road, who throttled Notre Dame, I might add. I don't think you want to set the precedent of leaving one of those kinds of teams out. This is a classic case of be careful what you wish for if you're one of these other programs in a Power 5 and clamoring for all this, buddy. When they come for me, they come for you. So you can't do that nonsense and not realize the long-lasting effects of doing something like that. Also, why play the damn games? Why play the games if all we're going to do is sit around and let Vegas tell us that this team would be favored over this team in a neutral site? Because they would. There's 6-7 teams easy that would be favored over Florida State in a neutral site. But that's not how we pick these playoffs. That's not how we pick these games. The bottom line is Florida State played those games and they won them. And so at the end of the day, you can't put Alabama in over Texas. Texas beat Alabama at Alabama. That's the way it is. If Alabama beats Georgia and Florida State beats Louisville tonight, peace out, no SEC. That's the end of it.
Yeah, short of Michigan losing, which would be really stunning. So not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. If it goes our way tonight and the cell signal or the Wi-Fi is strong enough, we're going to see you in the postgame for a little bit, just a couple minutes?
Maybe. I don't know, man. I hope to. I'll have to do it from the box. I'm in a suite. I know, poor me. I'm in a suite with a lot of other people, so I don't know, the logistics, but yeah, I'll try to make it happen.
You just turn around from the front row of the suite and get the field in the background. We want to make sure that there's no documents in the background. Nothing's being signed in the background in the suite that you're in. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear in that situation. You want to be very sensitive in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm getting ready to head over there right now, and I look forward to it. It's not that far. Like I said, I can see the stadium lights off in the distance, and it's one of these things where I'm nervous, but I'm excited for them. And I kind of feel like we're playing with house money, man. Go have fun, kids. Go play hard, and we'll see what happens. They've done a really good job this year. That will not be taken away if for some reason your third-string quarterback comes up short tonight. We'll see. We'll see how they play. I am happy to report, though, as I get set to leave here and walk that way, no rain. No rain. It's nice.
Okay. And the temperature's not crazy. Last time you were there was
degrees.
70. Yeah, I know. It was uglier here today. We'll see. This is interesting, though. If Tate's not available, period. It's not like Brock Glenn goes in over Tate because they're choosing Brock. If Tate's not available, then A.J. Duffy is one snap away. So we'll see. We'll see if they let him loose and let him run. They should, even with A.J. being the guy who's the backup.
Appreciate you guys. I agree with you, Tommy. And hey, listen, go Noles. We'll make it happen. And I'm gonna go over there and see if I can't improve our roster, everybody.
Yeah, make that happen. We'll be on the air for the post-game show 10 to 15 minutes after the game. Let us hope that the win total reads like the sign.
Oh, I like it.
If we get to 13, brother, oh my God, the playoff march is on.
You know, I don't know who I'm kidding. I will definitely give you the camera turn around there.
Come on.
Yeah. I will. All right, everybody. Be good.
Hit that thumbs up.
Watch Warchant Game Day. It's been fun. Hopefully we're doing another one. I know we will. Either way. Be good.